It's bad enough that we have the nuisance and expense of wearing glasses, but what most people don't understand, and what they aren't told by their eye doctors, is that as myopia increases, you become more and more at risk for certain serious eye problems like retinal detachment, macular degeneration, glaucoma, and so forth. And this is why prevention is so important.
Yes. Well, then, the catastrophic error that has been made by ophthalmologists is to compound this elongation of the eye by prescribing distance glasses, which simply lock in the change that has already been made and then, I suppose, worsen it as you continue to engage in the same close reading behavior.
That's exactly right, because the eyeglasses they prescribe are just the opposite of the reading glasses you find in the store. What they prescribe we call minus lenses, and these are lenses which are thinner in the center and thicker on the outside. When you put those in front of the eye, they actually bring the whole world closer. In other words, let's say you develop myopia so that arm's length is as far as you can see clearly. Well, when you put on these minus lenses, that distant mountaintop out there is now up at arm's length, and the book that you were holding out there is now much closer. In other words, your whole world has come closer. That's what minus lenses do.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the result of this? Well, the eye continues to grow abnormally, your vision worsens, you go back and get stronger glasses. It's a vicious circle. When you see people wearing really thick glasses for nearsightedness, you can be sure that most of that is caused by the doctor's continuous prescription of minus lenses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tragedy of the whole thing. People aren't told that there's a second opinion, there's a second way they can go here. They can try using plus lenses on their children to ease this focusing effort and retard and maybe stop myopia.
Right.
Sort of what I'm fighting for.
Yeah. It reminds me almost, Donald, of the Muhammad and the mountain. The problem is that through continuous close distance reading, I can't see the mountain. So the answer from the ophthalmologist is to bring the mountain to me, whereas in fact I should be doing the other thing. I should be getting my vision back working at distance again.
Yes, that's right. Minus lenses bring things closer, plus lenses push things further away from a focusing standpoint.
Okay, and you've identified an effective technique that can be used. It's on the website myopia.org, which is called reading at the far point.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain the principle of that and how that operates?
Yeah, there have been studies where they have half-heartedly tried to give a weaker prescription or something like that, but they never go far enough in these studies. The only way that you can really counteract this hour after hour of close work that we do is to provide a strong enough plus lens so that the eyes are fully relaxed or whatever distance you're working at, let's say wherever you hold the book. And if you have a child who's just moving into myopia, that child would normally need a +3 pair of reading glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And with those on, and in holding the book out there at normal distance, the words may be just a little bit blurred. If you push it away, they get even more blurred, and if you bring it close, they get clear.
Mm-hmm.
If they're slightly blurred, this is the indication that your eyes and the focusing mechanism in there are completely relaxed. In fact, you're forcing that ciliary eye muscle to relax. This is the only method that works. If you just give a child some plus lenses and push them out the door and say, use these, and without any further guidance, well, there are children who put their noses in a book.
Yes.
So it just isn't enough. They've got to have education on how to use their eyes, hold that book out there, use proper light, all these things. And this has never really been done in any study.
Yeah. Okay, so it's almost like a reversal of the misadaptation. You're going the opposite direction and achieving results. But you have something even better, which is your own patented device, the Myopter Viewer. That seems to provide extraordinary benefits. Could you just outline the principles there and what benefits it can supply?
Well, when I was younger and started to learn about this, I found out that some people had tried to use this plus lens, but they ended up with temporary headaches or double vision. And it turns out that there are a small number of people who have trouble converging their eyes, turning their eyes toward the nose for long periods of time. So the myopter is quite similar to the eyepiece of a binocular microscope, and it just completely relaxes the eyes. And when we used it a couple of decades ago in Pittsburgh with an optometrist, put it on children, well, he got reversals in their myopia and ended the problem right there. But since then, nobody has agreed to do any further testing.
Okay. Is there any benefit to the use of the pinhole glasses to achieve some of this relaxation effect, or are you better just going for plus lenses?
You have to have the plus lenses. There may be people who make big claims for pinhole glasses, but they aren't always justified. You have to use plus lenses. You have to get that blurred effect, which some people call fogging, when you read, and that forces the eye to relax. Now, if you have a child who's already nearsighted to some extent, and you're debating, should I get minus lenses for this child? Well, you should really try to put that off permanently if you can. Let the child sit up in the front of the class, and if some more help is needed, pinholes are great to see the board. Mm-hmm. And if the child were to use the pinholes for reading, well, it wouldn't do any particular harm. But if you give the child minus lenses and then that child turns around and reads with them, that's where the damage comes.
Yeah. Well, just looking at a broader profile then, what about the rest of us who aren't young any longer? Can things like pinhole glasses help those of us who use computers a great deal and who are in our 30s, 40s, 50s? What's the advice you'd give for people in those kind of age ranges?
Well, they might help some people ease the strain of looking at a computer screen all day long. And usually when people get up to a certain age, they are no longer concerned with their myopia getting worse because that levels off by the time you're out of your 20s. But the pinholes are, I guess you could say, they just correct the eyes the way prescription glasses do. They make you see better. And one benefit of them is you don't have to keep changing them all the time. Now, I use them when the small print goes across the bottom of the TV. So there are tens of thousands of those pinholes sold every year, although you won't find them in an optical shop because they'd rather sell their prescription glasses.
You're raising an issue there, and let's deal with that. This you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out what you worked out, Donald. But you haven't had a great deal of success in trying to take that issue forward to the profession and get them to accommodate the reality of what's causing the vision defect.
Well, this is true, and back when I was getting started on this, and I actually even wrote a book about it called The Myopia Myth, and in there I described the myopia and everything that I thought parents would want to know. Unfortunately, it never became a bestseller. I couldn't even get it in the bookstores. Public apathy is a big problem here with that, and but now I have it on my website, myopia.org, in digital form. Anybody in the world can read it for free. But I went around to optometric conferences and delivered a couple of papers and things like that, but I found out there was absolutely no interest. So when the internet came along, I thought, well, here's a great opportunity. So about 10 years ago, I put myopia.org onto the internet, and we're still waiting for the revolution. I'm trying to keep the information out there for the public.
Well, yeah, thank God for the internet. But there are other alternative approaches suggested. Can you exercise your eye back into proper vision, as is claimed?
Well, I think that's a fallacy that you can do that, and people often ask me that question, and I say if you're myopic, if you're nearsighted, your eyes don't need exercise. They're getting too much exercise. They need relaxation. It's as if you were trained your muscles in your arm every day until you got muscles locked up. So you don't need any more exercise. You need to stretch that muscle and relax it. So exercises are not going to do it.
Some practical things that we might do that could help the child maintain the correct reading distance with the right glasses would be to use, for example, a book stand so that the child is at an appropriate distance, and that's sort of locked in because of the positioning of a book stand. It's about
yeah, that's true. That would certainly help because children tend to pull things close. It's tough to get them to learn to leave that book out there where it's just the tiniest bit blurred, and don't bring it any closer. You know, they almost have to be supervised constantly, and the teachers in school should be doing this, but the schools haven't had a bit of interest in any of this, unfortunately.
So, well, too, there are progressive schools, and as the internet gathers pace, hopefully more will take this on board. So they could actually teach children how to maintain that right distance, about 12 inches with the appropriate plus lens, and then just move it so that it's slightly blurred, giving a complete relaxation. That complete relaxation, Donald, could actually help prevent deterioration completely and even reverse what deterioration there might have been there.
Any child who does that should not become nearsighted.
Okay, it's as if the child is out in the open air playing around and using the eyes normally. They're as relaxed in school